Last week we tried to explain to you what the social concept really means. We tried to ignore a bit technology and look at the basics. And why we should know that technology is just an extension to what we do in our day-to-day conversations with each other and with businesses. It's never a replacement for our day-to-day engagement, right? It enables us to do much better things in a more efficient way. Something that was quite hard to do some time ago. It's just impossible to do that thing over the phone. Sometimes it's really hard to do it over the email. And so social media is coming in, these social channels, to make that conversation between us, customers, businesses, a lot more efficient. And that's why this is an important element for us to learn. Now, today we want to extend that and look into the social trends. Today we're coming back into the technologies of social channels, right? And these platforms that cost millions to build. Now we want to look at social networking trends today. We can't cover every social networking out there, but we'll be covering some of the key ones that we use on a day-to-day basis, right? But the whole idea is to try and look at these social channels from a business perspective. Alright? So you could understand why these matters to businesses mostly. And I'm sure most of you have already looked into Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube and different channels, and you already know more or less how these things work. You've got to dive in these social channels to understand how they work. First in a personal perspective, and then look at how that plays a role in the business. And that's how you understand more about that. So, what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about the key social channels and some of the features that really make them so special. And then we're going to look at the business benefits. What are those business benefits for the business and why they need to be aware of these. And we can look at also the personal branding. What's the role of social channels in the personal branding and also business brands as well. So then we understand more in depth why these matter to us the most. Now, Twitter is more about conversations and less about technology. To be able to build these platforms, they cost you, that they're so expensive. Because what you see in the front end, like a Twitter homepage, is just a front end, it's just a CSS design. It's not a complex thing. But the back end is the most expensive bit, where you've got what? The servers, the infrastructure, and everything else. And making sure that all of these elements work together fantastically well. So when you see simple pages, you need to realize that's just the front end, that's just the cover. That's just the cream, top of the cake. But everything else inside needs to work out well, otherwise it won't do the job. And that's why you need to understand these platforms are so expensive. And that's why are valued so highly. Not just because of technology, but also, of course, also because of their own branding. And this is, for instance, just a conversation that is happening on Twitter, which is obviously public, between me and my friend. But of course, the reason why I put that out, because that's what I tweeted, because I believe that's what it is. You know, Twitter is less of a technology and more of a conversation. And it's obviously happening with or without you. Because from time to time you get the question from students and businesses sometimes who say, but why should I be worried about Twitter? I'm sure these social channels are just going to die one day, so why I should be driving my business towards using social channels? Well, it's hard to see them going away simply because the numbers keep growing so much and everyone is embracing it. Even big companies are embracing it. They're integrating into their customer management systems to actually connect with their customers. And because so much is being created, and because it's enabling people to put their thoughts and their ideas and their opinions about businesses and products online, that it's very hard to see that going, for that specific reason. And so, that's why it's something important for the businesses to be aware, but at the same time for you guys as well. The next thing, now let's just look at just some of the key features. I don't want to go into details, but let's just look at some of the key features when it comes to Twitter. We've tried to give you a few guides during our tutorials from time to time, but the most important thing is just knowing that when you tweet something, if it's private, obviously nobody's going to see it, only from people in your specific network. But most of you have got public profiles and you need to be aware of what you say in that box within those 140 spaces. The good thing about that, you'll notice, as you get to tweet more often, is that it really helps you to be more articulate about what you're going to say. How are you going to say something in a paragraph, from a paragraph into a short sentence? How are you going to turn one paragraph into a short sentence and say everything you want to say? Which I think is a really good skill. The other thing that is quite relevant to know as a feature is obviously sending direct messages from between friends. You need to be following each other to do that. The reason why I mention this, when we look at the business perspective, is because every time you have a problem or something that gets quite tensed online, it's very important to bring that offline. One way of bringing the things offline is by dealing with direct messages where nobody else can see them, or sometimes by bringing things offline to emails, maybe to face-to-face conversation, whenever things get heated up. So don't ever start arguing with people online and keep doing that for a long time, because you tend to forget that all of that is happening in the public domain. So it's absolutely essential that whether that's a personal thing, or business to customer, or customer to business, you realize how effective it is to bring that offline as soon as possible, before it gets too bad. We talked quickly about protecting your tweets. You can decide to protect your tweets, and there's nothing wrong about it. But I believe it just goes against this whole social and openness that channels offer online. So it's like having something really cool and amazing to share with the world, but you're not really doing it. You're not really sharing it. It's like having that fantastic car, that Ferrari in your garage, but actually never bringing it out and driving it. So, and only people who can see that are your true friends who come to visit you for dinner or lunch or drink or something and say, oh, by the way, come and check out my new car because it's awesome, it's really nice. It's got this and that and that. But nobody else obviously knows about it. Now, you can do that, but I think it goes against to what the core idea is from social, which is about being open and connecting with people. As soon as your profile looks like it is a private profile, what's going to happen? People are going to start thinking twice whether they should be following you or not. Because it just shows that you're too closed, and you don't want to talk to people. Right? And so, lots of consumers online wouldn't want that. Imagine if there was a business that said, protected tweets, protected profile. And as a consumer, you wouldn't want to be kind of making a request to connect with these people. That'd just be too difficult. And I don't think it works. A feature that normally neglected a lot is search feature on Twitter. Now, Why this feature is important? It can help you do what? Understand what are the key trends on Twitter. And you can be very specific what you want to find out. You can say, I want to find out about last match, whoever played, what time did they play, what are the keywords, and the hashtag that they might have used. Remember, when we talked about using Twitter, we talked about approaches that you can identify people or businesses you care about that you want to connect with. We all know that you don't want to connect with everyone. You only want to be connected with people or businesses that provide valuable content to you. Something that you wouldn't get otherwise. And that's really why most of the social channels work very well. Because they give us something we've never had before. You never had an opportunity to connect with businesses so fast, say something to them and get a reply in a very prompt manner. Managing Twitter or different applications on social media, it's actually a lot easier now. Why? Because lots of companies around the world building their own applications to enable very easy managing process on social channels, right? And some of these platforms can work very good on mobile, but also they can work on the web, and they can also work on different tablets as well. Now, why they are so important? Because it allows you to manage different social channels in one place. How many times you identify some of the businesses that have got a presence all across social space? But most of their profile timeline is empty. There's absolutely nothing. It's much better not to have a social profile than have an empty one. Especially for the businesses, where they have people following them, consumers following them, that want to know, want to get information, details and highlights. Let's look at the benefits that brings to businesses. Let's look at some of the key things that businesses really need on a day-to-day basis. Now, the key thing is, of course, customer service, right? Business needs to support customers. And we've tried from time to time to bring in examples about how businesses are doing a very good job to support us using social channels. But of course, some of them just ignore it. Sometimes we used to tweet about some of these companies, and you tweeted in the lecture as well, you never heard anything back. Which is what could be a missed opportunity, because you could become one of their customers. Now, we judge more and more now based on how good companies are in social space. If you have companies who are really not very good, we kind of start to think maybe we shouldn't really be their customer. And I think that's quite interesting, and that's growing a lot more. The other thing is, of course, generate effective communication. Now, all other channels are quite hard, and we all know that. But being effective in sending out messages, special deals, communicating updates on the new products, or updates on the current product that you sold to the customers is absolutely essential. And you can reach out to so many people with one single tweet, that otherwise you wouldn't be able to do that. And the other thing is that you're managing very quickly to learn from them if they have any problem with your service or product. The other one is, of course, generating traffic. Now, every single presence on the web has got some sort of web address and it's got a link. Now, every business that you can see online, in social channels, they do have what? They have links almost in every tweet and every social profile, whether that's a Facebook page or whether that's a YouTube channel, anywhere, there will be a link somewhere. And that link is the home, the hub the place where that business stands. Okay? So what happens is that every activity that is happening in every single social networking channel will end up in home. And more we drive traffic to our home, we're likely to do what? To sell something. Or get people to subscribe. That's what we call conversion rate. Conversion rate, it's more used on e-commerce world, right? Is the amount of people that take an action when they come into your site. And that action doesn't mean to sell something. It could mean that you're trying to do what? You're trying to get people to subscribe to the content you're providing. Or your goal might be that you want to get people to sign up for your website. So in other words, every social activity, all the discounts and special deals that they're offering to you, will end up into their e-commerce site where they're trying to sell something. So much traffic gets generated thanks to the social networking channels. That is amazing. And when we look at the analytics, social media analytics, we will look at this. And I'm going to show you some graphs and some charts where you'll see how much of the traffic, even to my own site, comes from social. In fact, social media channels are being key drivers of traffic into the web. And that's why businesses are doing everything they can to grasp our attention and bring us into this journey so that we can end up in their website, in their home. And they can start selling us something. Now the amount of people that buy is normally very low. It's between 1 to 4%. So out of 100 people that come to our website, 1 to 4 are likely to buy. So you see, that conversion rate is very, very low. But that's why generating as much traffic as possible using social channels and bring that to the website is essential, because that can help us to build the business. And that is the reason why companies are investing so much, because in the end there are so many things they'll get out of their social presence. And in this case, the traffic, more traffic. The other thing that businesses really get a lot from it is following trends. So it's very quickly, very easily, you can find out what's happening with the trends in your industry. If you're selling fashion online, all you have to do is go, use some keywords and some hashtags, and you'll identify what people are talking about. And that could help you to do what? That could help you to think about changing, improving, or innovating in new products. And following the trend. And that is really useful, because you've got to stay up to date with the business, otherwise you won't survive. And there's no reason why, for instance, companies like BlackBerry are struggling now. Because they haven't managed to keep up to date with what was happening, right? So they thought that, okay, building up a new phone that is so nice and it looks good and everything is going to do a good job, while they were not having enough content, enough apps for that specific device. And the reason, I don't want to get into this one because this is part of the mobile business module, but the reason why it works for Apple is because they don't just have a fantastic device, but they have what? They have an app store with hundreds of thousands of applications. And you get a saying where there is an app for everything. And that's all said. Okay? And that's one thing, for instance, that companies don't keep up with the trends and understand the bigger picture of the business. Local connections, of course, this is another thing. What you could do as a business, you start those conversations online and bring those things offline. So, in other words, you start those conversations and you provide special offers and deals to the customers that decide to visit your store. So, in other words, that becomes all like a circle of conversations from the online to the offline world. Advertising, now we can see almost in every social channels you can advertise. If it's on Twitter, you can promote your tweets, you can promote your username, you can promote your hashtag. And normally the budget depends how big your business is, but For instance, with Facebook, you can start with as little as £5 to promote your user, to promote your page. Of course, that won't get you very far, but you can get started, right? And you can do the same thing with YouTube as well. Now, YouTube is slightly more expensive, but you can do that, some advertising there as well. Now, that is really useful. Why? And what's the difference between running an advertising campaign on social channel, on digital world, from the traditional one? Why do you think is the big difference between the two? When it's digital, you can track everything. When it's traditional, it's quite hard, right? Promoting your business in newspapers and banner ads and things like that, it's very expensive, but how can you track how much of it is going into business? Yeah, you can use maybe some barcodes or some specific numbers that you can identify those ads with, but normally it's quite hard. With the digital advertising, you can track anything that you're publishing online, that you're advertising online. And so, you would only be paying whenever you are doing what? You're attracting people to click on your ads. And that's quite clever, isn't it? So it doesn't matter how many ads you've got in different channels, social media channels, you would only be paying YouTube, Google, or Twitter, or Facebook when somebody has clicked on those ads. So you're not wasting money. You're only paying when you get someone to click on your ads. And that is normally calculated using click-through rates. Lots of companies are now doing what? They are recruiting big time using social media channels. Why? Because people are being creative in those spaces. People are being themselves. Lots of people don't even get paid for it, don't make any money. But they do that because they're passionate about it. And so, as a business owner, would you rather work with someone who's so passionate about it, or just an expert that's going to be an engineer? Right? You will work with people that really give everything they can and they love it. Because as soon as they start feeling bored about what you do, even the brain kind of starts to slow down. It doesn't really work fully. But when you start to loving things, you've got a full potential to create new products or services or improve them. When it comes to Facebook, again here the numbers are extraordinarily high, and you have, I don't know, more than 500 million people logging in to Facebook each day. This is probably even a lot higher now because this was the end of last year. But again, posting comments, liking, engaging, and that number is huge. Now you imagine if there is only 0.0001% of a chance people talking about your product on those conversations or your company. That's a huge impact. Because that means, what, going back to the traffic we talked about earlier, driving lots of traffic from here to the website. These are just some of the key features when it comes to Facebook. You all know them, but just to have a slightly better idea about why some of these things can be quite important to step out for a bit and get a more insightful view on it. Now, some of the key things to keep in your mind is that whatever you do, these are the key. Well, this is the body of the page of Facebook where all the stories happen. Then, of course, the ads normally on your right-hand side, which of course is a model that they're trying to get it right, but it's still a bit too early. It's only been 2 years. And in the second chapter of the book, I do talk about the fact of how Facebook is targeting ads for me. And the ads that are targeted to me, they're actually not as efficient as they should be. Even though Facebook has got a lot of information about me. And those ads need to be a bit more tailored. Otherwise, what happens? I don't click on them, right? The biggest change probably so far was the fact that they introduced the page spam pages. And of course, the biggest one was the cover page, which normally did what? Provided a better view about the customer, about the service, or about the product. And we'll look at some examples now. But another really useful element when it comes to this is what we call the tab system in here, right? Where normally you could do what? You can integrate other things on Facebook. You can integrate your website, you can integrate your Instagram, you can integrate your Pinterest, you can integrate your YouTube channel. Now in Count Social, we have got a tab in there. You can click, you can go and watch all our YouTube channel without having to leave Facebook. And the idea is that you can bring everything together here. And that's why this has changed a lot for business. Now you can schedule posts, you can promote posts all in one place and choose the budget you want to invest. Let's look at business benefits for the business. Of course, as I said, the key thing is the cover photo. And you can see the details on the size and everything, but that is quite important. Why? Because it's giving us to do what? To give a better view about our customer, about our products and services that we're offering to customers. Right? Now, the visualizing thing is absolutely essential. You know, we say an image means 1,000 words, right? What do you think a YouTube video means? How much a YouTube video means? If an image says 1,000 words, what do you think about a YouTube video? Right? So, seeing the visualizing things really mean a lot to businesses and to us as customers. Now, look at this, and these are just some examples from Louis Vuitton, Zena Cafe, and some other ones that kind of do quite a good job in making sure that they have fully completed their profiles. Let's look at some of the key things about business when it comes to Facebook. Of course, about section, we're talking about the Facebook pages, where you can add information about your business, the link, and the contact details. So in other words, it's one place where they can contact you and find out more about who you really are. Of course, application banner, you can turn on and off comments if you don't want that to do, to kind of be as an extra job for you. However, normally for businesses, it's a much better idea to have your comments on, simply because you want to hear from customers that are following you, or liking your page, or have subscribed to your page. Because at the moment you turn that off, you're sending a message to the customers and saying, this is a one-way conversation. I want to tell you everything I've got to say about my business, but I don't care what you think about it. And so I don't want to hear from you. And that sends a very bad message to customers. Because when they subscribe to your page, they want to develop that dialogue, that conversation with you. They won't be sticking around for too long if you're saying to them, I've said what I'm going to say, but I don't want to hear from you. You know, like when you call companies because you need a support, you ring that number and you've got to wait for 15, 20 minutes. What happens when you call sales number because you want to buy their service? How long do you think you've got to wait? Not long, right? Hello! How can we help? We've got amazing service, blah, blah, blah. But as soon as you become a customer, that's fine. He's with us now. 2-year contract, done deal. If they want to leave, they have to pay for the entire contract, so we don't really lose as a business. That's how they see it. But that's why social now is changing it, because it's saying we want a two-way dialogue. We do not want one-way dialogue, because we're paying for the service and we want to receive that service fully. Otherwise, bye-bye. And there are other people that care about us and we're going to go with it. So, of course, these are some of the key features on Facebook fan page that really allow us to get a lot more insights about milestones that we might also have for our marketing efforts online on Facebook. You can also pin your post for up to 7 days max, but some of these features, of course, are changing. But the best thing to do is what? To create your own pages and play around with them and fully understand how they work. So there's a lot more practical side of things that you can do to dive into it. And you can't really understand them unless you spend some time using these sites. Okay, let's move to YouTube now. We know the third most visited site on the web with 2 billion views per day, even more now. And that is amazing. And as I said, when you think about YouTube, think about one thing. If an image means 1,000 words, what do you think a YouTube video means? Okay? And that will give you a better idea why this matters. Of course, the key, pretty much the key features and the structure on the YouTube channel is very similar to some of other social networking sites. Of course, on the left-hand side, you always have the tools and the banner, the tools and the starting point, really, the main content in the main place, like everywhere else. And of course, on the right-hand side, you have the ads. That's where YouTube makes billions, right? And so, what they do quite neat things. And in the beginning, they'll show you a video, but you can hide it. Now, just a few days ago, I tweeted about the fact that when we watch YouTube videos, we can't handle up to 10 seconds of ads. But then lots and lots of other services online, starting from CNET and other big companies, make you watch 30 seconds before they play that video. Okay, so actually YouTube is not as bad as we think. Let's look at the business benefits and see how they play a role for us. First things first, you've got a business, you create a brand channel. You brand your channel. You have your logo, you have a theme, you've got everything, you've got a cover and everything else. And that just shows that you can build up a little channel of yours for your business. Subscribers and activities. You tend to create your own list of subscribers that you do what? That you engage with. So what you normally do, as soon as you create this audience, you start to communicate with them. You say, okay, well, tell us what you want from our service and we're happy to give you some guidelines. Sometimes you can provide tutorials for the products or services, tips and tricks on how to use your products and services. In other words, being there for customers. And it goes back to what I strongly believe in building long-term relationships rather than looking at one-time transaction. Because more than 90% of customers would not want that. They want relationships. Because when you build relationships, what happens next? You start to care about people, right? You know, people get together, get married and everything, for good or bad. Big words, but sometimes not all the time respected, right? But, you know, you build that relationship, you kind of commit to caring about people, right? And that's why this thing is changing. And that's why when you build these relationships, you say, I'll care about you as much as you care about me. So, win-win, right? And now if you look at different things you can do, of course YouTube Gadget, it helps you to kind of embed your YouTube channel, YouTube videos into your website, into your blog. You can do the live streaming. But the thing what you can do more with live streaming, for instance, when it comes to businesses, is that you could do what? You could live stream your launch of the product, right? You can live stream whatever happens, an event, a conference, and things like that. And that's quite amazing. The other thing you could do, because not everyone can attend, right? How many people you've got who are highly skilled, but they can't attend a conference in London because it's so expensive and they live somewhere in China, right? All the visas and things and traveling, just hard for them. But they're really true experts. So how can you reach out to those people? Well, this is one way of doing it. And it's kind of getting people closer. And I think that's quite powerful. Video editor tool, of course, you don't have to do any editing on your PC. Even if you don't have editing software, you can do without it really. Now, YouTube editing tool is really comprehensive. It gives you a lot. You can change anything. You can add audio, free copyright audios to your file, to your videos, and all of that. Annotations, you can watch later, you can stream things on the TV. Now that's why now this is getting very exciting. Because we're all having these smart TVs, so we can do what? We can stream things directly on TV. And if we are close to our TV, we'll never be watching things on our phones, right? Why would you do that? Just, you know, seeing that on the TV and watch it properly. That's YouTube. Pinterest. Second biggest traffic referral site. Now remember we talked about traffic. How important traffic it is. Well, Pinterest does an amazing job. Let's look at some of the key things when it comes to Pinterest. When you think of a Pinterest, think about Twitter for images. So, tweet, retweet, pin, repin. It's the same thing. You pin things, you publish things, and people start to repin things because they were useful. Same as when you tweet something useful, people start to retweet them because they're interesting. So this is what you need to think. But the most interesting thing is the way how the website is laid out and structured, which is really nice and really useful. And the cool thing about it is that you can see now, you can start to search about products and services between the price range. And that's quite interesting because we will get now into the benefits for business, and just look at one thing now. Businesses can create pin boards. Almost like similar to creating a YouTube channel, you can create a pin board for your business. Now what that means, you can structure different types of groups of products into one place. But of course, one thing you'll see on Pinterest all the time is the fact that there's got to be a quality professional made image most of the time. Otherwise, people are not going to find that useful. Most of the images you find are really, really good quality images on Pinterest. And that's Pinterest. LinkedIn. The key thing you notice now recently on Twitter, on LinkedIn, is what? Content, content, content. The company is doing everything they can to offer you content. Why? Because you have business professionals in there and they need information. They need guidelines, they need tutorials, they need things. They made sure that they're going to try and buy every company they can that produces relevant content, because what? Their user base needs content because they're business professionals. Quickly, company page. Of course, you can have a company page, same as you can have a channel on YouTube for the business. Expert groups, group discussions. You can see now why content is essential for LinkedIn, right? And then status bar answers. Oh, this was very popular in LinkedIn and it still is. Connecting recruitment and then LinkedIn ads. So you can also promote your business in LinkedIn, and that is very, very interesting. Google Plus. Google Plus is a hub to connect Google services in one place. So when you think about Google Plus, it is a place where Google is trying to connect every other services they have into Google Plus. The most interesting things that I believe in Google Plus are at the moment are Google Hangouts, where we can start to hang out with your friends or with business professionals, and you can stream that live on YouTube. Some business benefits, quickly. Of course, you can have a complete profile. You need to have a complete profile on Google Plus. You can add links, group discussions. You can promote profile and widget plus type of feature in there. But also what you can do, which is quite important, is that you can connect and engage with people that want to share more visual content. That includes images and videos.